If you have just saved $10,000 for the first time, stop. Do not move it anywhere yet. Do not invest it. Do not pay anything off with it. Just stop. Because I spent a long time figuring out what this number actually does for someone your age, and it is not what anyone told me it would do. I ran the backwards math. The 10% penalty on the retirement account I touched when the car broke. The credit card debt I took on at 24% because I had nothing liquid to cover a gap. The employer match I walked past every month because contributing would have left me exposed. When I added it all up, not having a buffer floor had cost me more than $10,000 already. Which means the first time you save $10,000, you have not just built something. You have stopped paying a hidden cost you did not even know you were carrying. But nobody explains it that way. Every video about this milestone was made for a 25-year-old with 30 years ahead of them. The maths they use is not your maths, and it wasn't mine either. The timeline they assume is not our timeline. And if you have not got there yet, if you are still wondering how someone with your responsibilities actually gets to $10,000 in the first place, I am going to cover that in this video. Because the advice you have been given was not built for your life. Now, before we get into what changes when you hit $10,000, I want to address the question I know is sitting in your head. How does someone with your life actually get there? Because if you are in your 40s or 50s, your money is already spoken for before it lands. The rent or the mortgage, the kids, maybe an ex-partner you are still financially connected to, parents who need things. A car that has a talent for breaking at the worst possible time. By the time the paycheck hits the account, it is gone on paper before you have touched a penny. So when someone tells you to save $10,000, the honest question is from what? Every piece of advice I found when I was in that place assumed I had discretionary income sitting idle. Cut the subscriptions, pack a lunch, automate a transfer. And those things are not wrong, but they were written for someone whose problem was discipline. My problem was not discipline. My money was not idle. It was already carrying too many people. What actually worked was simpler and slower than anything I had read. I opened a separate savings account, different bank, not linked to my debit card. Slightly annoying to reach, deliberately, because the enemy of a buffer floor in the early days is not a big emergency. It is a quiet Tuesday when you are tired and the money is one tap away. Then I picked an amount so small it felt almost pointless. $50 a month, sometimes less. And I moved it first before anything else touched the paycheck. Not what was left at the end of the month. First. Because the money you save last is the money that never gets saved. Now I want to be honest with you about something. At $50 a month you are looking at years to get to $10,000. And life is not going to pause while you build. There will be a month, probably more than one, where something comes for that money before the floor is strong enough to hold it, and you will touch it. That is not failure. That is the reality of building a floor when the ground keeps shifting underneath you. The goal is not to save $10,000 perfectly. The goal is to keep rebuilding every time life takes from it. Because a floor that gets touched and rebuilt is still a floor. It is still doing its job. And every time you rebuild it, it gets a little higher and a little harder for life to clear in a single hit. The employer match accelerates this. If your job offers one, every dollar you contribute up to their limit gets matched. On $50 a month you might get another $25 or $50 free. That is the fastest legal route to building a floor that exists. And it does not require extra income to activate, just a setting change in your benefits account. In another video I am going to walk through exactly how someone with your obligations, the alimony, the kids, the parents, the tight months, realistically builds a buffer floor all the way to $10,000. The full mechanics. The real timeline. What to do when life takes from it. I will link it in the description when it is live. Because you cannot understand what changes when you get to $10,000 until you understand what it actually costs to get there. But for now, I want to focus on what happens when you get there. Because that is the part nobody has ever explained properly. And it starts with a moment I did not expect. 4 months after I hit $10,000, the boiler at home gave out. $3,000. Unplanned, and for the first time in my adult life I had a choice about how to handle it. Not a comfortable choice, but a choice. I paid it from the buffer floor, the separate cash account I had been building. Not the retirement account, not a credit card. The floor took the hit. I closed the laptop and went to bed. The next morning I opened that same savings account. The money was still there. Not all of it, but enough. The buffer floor had absorbed a $3,000 hit and there was still something in it. I still had a buffer, and something changed in me that I did not see coming. Not excitement, not relief exactly. I couldn't explain it. But it was the first time in my adult life I had handled an emergency without going backwards. Every time before, every car repair, every bill, every month that ran short, I ended up further behind than when I started. The emergency would come. I would handle it, and then I would spend the next 6 months recovering, trying to get back to zero. Never actually moving forward, just trying not to fall too far back. That morning the cycle broke. The emergency came. I handled it, and the next morning I was not starting over. I was still standing. That is when everything changes. Not the day you save $10,000, the day $10,000 survive. Because what shifts is not just your balance, it is the story you tell yourself about who you are with money. For years, probably decades if you are honest with yourself, there has been a quiet voice in the background, the voice that says this is just how it is for me, that I am not the kind of person who holds on to money, that something always comes. That voice is not a personality flaw. It is evidence built from years of watching the money go, and it costs more than any single emergency ever did, because it is what stops you from trying again, from contributing more, from believing the next move is worth making. The moment the buffer floor survives its first real hit, that voice loses its evidence. Not forever, not immediately, but it now has to compete with one morning where something came and the floor held. That is what $10,000 actually does for someone your age. Not compound interest, not a wealth trajectory. It gives you one piece of evidence that you are the kind of person who can hold money. And that one piece of evidence is worth more than any projection on any finance chart I have ever seen. But I want to show you something now. Because that cycle I just described, never quite moving forward, always recovering, it has a name. And once you understand what it actually is, the last 10 or 20 years of your financial life are going to make a lot more sense. Financial fragility. And it is not a personality flaw. It is not poor discipline. It is not a character trait you were born with, or a habit you failed to break. It is a structural condition, one that affects millions of people in exactly your income bracket, your age range, your set of obligations, and it has been studied. The Federal Reserve found that in a single year, more than $50 billion was pulled out of retirement accounts through early hardship withdrawals. Not by careless people, not by people who did not try, by people who had no liquid buffer floor between an emergency and their retirement savings. The emergency came and the retirement account took the hit, along with a 10% penalty on top of normal tax. Those are not careless people, that is a condition. Mullainathan and Shafir, two researchers, one from Harvard, one from Princeton, studied what financial scarcity does to the brain. What they found was uncomfortable. When your mind is consumed by not having enough, your cognitive performance drops by the equivalent of 13 IQ points. That is not a small number. That is the difference between making a clear decision and making one under a fog you cannot see. Which means financial fragility is not just expensive, it is self-reinforcing. The less you have, the harder it is to think clearly about how to get more. The harder it is to think clearly, the more likely you are to make a decision under pressure that sets you back further. Round and round. I lived inside that loop for years without knowing all of this. And knowing it changes something. Because when you do not have a name for it, you fill the gap with something worse. You call it bad luck. You call it your fault. You call it just how it is for people like me. And those explanations are heavier than the condition itself. They do not just describe the problem. They become the reason you stop trying to solve it. Financial fragility is not who you are. It is what happens when the structure of your financial life has no buffer floor. When one unexpected cost is enough to unravel everything. When the only money available in an emergency is the money you cannot touch without a penalty. The buffer floor is what breaks the condition. Not completely and not overnight, but structurally. Because the moment there is something between you and the emergency, even a small something, the loop starts to loosen. Vanguard found that people with just $2,000 in their buffer floor report 21% higher financial well-being than those with none. Not $10,000, $2,000. The floor does not have to be complete to start doing its job. And that is another part of what changes after $10,000. Not just what you have, what you finally understand about what you have been living inside. But I want to show you something now that I think is going to surprise you. Because financial fragility does not just cost you stress. It has been sending you a bill every month in real dollars, and most people never add it up. The one thing nobody ever calculates, not what $10,000 grows into, but what not having it has already cost you. The survival tax. It is the hidden bill financial fragility sends every time life happens, and there is nothing between you and the emergency. Think back over the last 5 years, the times you had to reach for money you did not plan to touch. The retirement account withdrawal, maybe it was $3,000. Maybe it was $5,000. At a 22% tax rate plus the 10% early withdrawal penalty, a $3,000 withdrawal does not cost you $3,000. It costs you $960 in penalties and tax alone before you account for what that money would have grown into over the next 15 years. At 7% growth, that $3,000 left alone would have become roughly $8,270 by the time you retired. Gone. Not because you were careless, because there was no buffer floor. The credit card. You put $1,500 on a card at 24% interest because the alternative was worse. If it took you 18 months to clear that balance, the interest alone cost you around $340, on top of the $1,500. On top of whatever stress came with carrying it. The employer match you walked past. Maybe for 2 years, maybe 3, you did not contribute enough to claim the full match because you could not afford to have less in your take-home. At a 3% match on a $55,000 salary, that is $1,650 a year you left on the table. Over 3 years, $4,500. Free money. Unclaimed. Because the buffer floor was not there to make contributing feel safe. Add those 3 things up. 1 retirement withdrawal. 1 credit card emergency. 3 years of unclaimed match. That is over $15,000 in real costs and lost money. Gone. Not from one big mistake. From the slow, quiet monthly cost of having no floor. That is the survival tax. And the moment the buffer floor is in place, the tax stops. The next time the car breaks, you pay from the buffer. The retirement account stays untouched. The compound growth continues. The employer match gets claimed because contributing no longer feels dangerous. The credit card stays at 0 because there is something liquid to reach for first. The $10,000 buffer floor does not just sit there. It is working every single month, not by growing, but by stopping the drain. I want you to sit with that for a moment. Because most people look at $10,000 and think about what it could become. But for someone in your situation, the more important number is what it stops leaving. You have spent years paying the survival tax without knowing it had a name. The buffer floor is how you stop paying it. And that is what $10,000 actually means for someone your age. Not the beginning of a wealth story. The end of a very expensive one. The end of a tax you did not know you were paying. Now, let me recap what we just covered. How does someone with your responsibilities actually get to $10,000? And what changes when they do? The how is simpler than anyone told you. 1. Match up to what your employer gives you when you add money to your 401k. Secondly, the moment your paycheck lands, before the bills, before anything else, move a small amount into a separate account. $50. Sometimes less, sometimes more. Move it first every month. Keep rebuilding it every time life takes from it. That is the mechanism. It's not a perfect plan, it's a consistent and slow one. And what changes when you get there? The day an emergency comes for that money, and one will, you pay it from the buffer floor instead of the retirement account and still have money left in your buffer floor. That is the day the cycle breaks. You stop going backwards. The retirement account stays untouched. The survival tax stops. Not because your income changed, because the buffer floor is finally there. Now, the next video is the one I promised you earlier. Will go into the real method on how someone with your income and your obligations actually builds all the way to $10,000. The real paycheck mechanics, not the generic advice. I will link it in the description when it is live. And if you want it the moment it drops, subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss it. Every video on this channel is built for you if you're in your 40s, 50s, and 60s and want to retire with enough money before you run out of time. You were never bad with money, you were just one emergency away from having to prove it. Take care of yourself. I'll see you in the next one.